right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Untherapeutic, a relationship podcast for people who may not go to therapy. So today we're joined by Willie Cruz. He's the director of athletic performance for the Houston Rockets. So I'm going to let Willie kind of tell you a little bit about himself, but I'm excited today because obviously health and relationships go hand in hand. So many of us are trying to improve our health. So many people want our spouse to improve their health, but we just don't have the tools on how to go about it. So Willie's going to help us do that today, and I'm excited about it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Willie.
My name is Willie Cruz. I'm from Rochester, New York, born and raised to a Colombian mother, African-American father. I lived in Rochester for about 13 years before our family moved to Michigan. I lost my father at a very young age, so was raised by a strong single mother. She did a really good job just instilling core values in us and helping us with our faith along the journey, figuring out who we wanted to be in this world, right? And so from there, I played college basketball at Eastern Kentucky University, got a full ride scholarship. Unfortunately, I got hurt. As anybody who's played sports before, when you get hurt, you understand that athletics are normally a part of your identity. That's all you know. And so for me, it was a really struggling time. I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression during my sophomore year. And I credit that moment for me finding my faith. And after finding my faith at the age of 19, and I found a second passion in human performance and wanting to learn more about the body and just diving into the training side. And so fortunately for me, I was able to stay on staff with Eastern Kentucky as a student coach. I was having strength and conditioning duties along with basketball duties on the court. So it was just a great segue into my career. It really jump-started my career and made me realize like this is what I actually wanted to do, right? So I was blessed to be able to find my passion at a young age and kind of stick to it. And then I was able to go to Fordham University where I worked on my master's degree in media management, which is not a exercise science related field, but I really feel like it stretched me. It caused me to grow in areas of understanding marketing and business and conceptualizing things that were outside of my comfort zone and then bringing them back home to the strength and conditioning space was just really good for me during that time in New York City. Just to be able to bridge the gap between learning what people on Wall Street were learning and doing what we were doing in the weight room as far as training the body, the mindset, and the emotional, spiritual connection, which I call the triad. So a big part of my approach in training is the holistic model, where we're not just looking at physical training, but we're looking at how do we help this person develop into the best person that they can be, right? How do we maximize potential? And so I've kind of carved out a little niche of my own in that space. And I went to Oklahoma City Thunder, and then that's when I worked on my master's degree in exercise science.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where it kind of came full circle. Where
you brought it back to the basics with the athletic and the conditioning. So awesome. Yeah. Now go ahead. You were saying you were with the Oklahoma Thunder.
Yeah. So I got with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they ended up paying for my master's degree in exercise science. So that was a blessing. I really didn't know how I was going to get that degree. I always knew that if I wanted to advance to the highest level, I would need the didactic or the education to back it. Obviously, I had all the experience in the world and, certifications and things. But at that level, they want you to have the commas behind your name, so to speak.
Yeah. You gotta have a piece of paper, man. In some
you gotta have the piece of paper, right? And so it was again non-linear, but it worked itself out. And then from there, Oklahoma, after doing 2 years there, I came here to Houston and found a home here with the Rockets, and I've been here going into my 5th season, and it's been great. The diversity here in Houston is awesome. Found a great community here, and now I'm just planting roots and looking forward to what we have in store with the Houston Rockets, but also me personally with the community here.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great place, and the Houston Rockets are going to be better next year. So anybody that's wondering why that what's happening here in Houston, trust me, we're working on some things in the city that's going to change the course. So
Yes.
let me dive in. You talked about that transition where you got hurt, and then obviously you hit this period of kind of like depression, anxiety. How did exercise factor into helping you get out of that slump?
Man, that's great. And when I think back to that time, initially I didn't want to do anything.
Okay.
I know during the rehab process, like it was kind of forced to go in and do the physical therapy, and
Mhm.
I could have did more things. Right, I still had my legs, and I just remember just wanting time to process everything. And I dealt with a little bit of burnout, and during that time, I feel like the exercise end up becoming a channel or a gateway for me to dive in deeper with what I was feeling, right? So it allowed me to process my emotions better.
Mhm.
It allowed me to have a time away from what I was dealing with, the anxiety, the depression, just a moment of calm, so to speak, which was really important as I was just working through that. Because I think when you are dealing with mental health things and dealing with identity issues, that it's important to settle into knowing that's happening to you. So
Mhm.
obviously you want to seek help. I was working with a psychologist at the time.
Okay.
But then exercise again it was just a gateway for me to really feel my emotions, get away from my emotions, process them all in one. And I was
Mhm.
able to get on the other side of that with newfound purpose,
Okay.
my passion. And so it was definitely a blessing to be able to
Mhm.
have my legs and other
Yeah.
that I can work around to sweat every day.
You mentioned like kind of getting on the other side. I know there's a barrier for a lot of people, especially when it comes to working out, because when you're in that slump, you don't feel like working out.
Right.
Like that's not your immediate go-to. Like, oh, let me go to the gym. So how do you kind of get to the other side? Like, when you're working with athletes, I'm sure they hit a wall.
Hmm.
So pushing through that wall a lot of times is where the breakthrough happens,
Yeah.
and it's still a wall.
Hmm.
So what advice do you have for people who say, you know what, I hear you. I know the benefits of exercise, but I'm still don't feel like it, for lack of better terms. It's still tough for me to get up in the morning. It's still tough for me to go after work. How do you push through it?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is that anything worth having in life is uncomfortable, right? So even if you are on this journey of exercising or being in a mental slump or having a mental barrier blockade, you have to understand that we all have that in us, right? To want to stop and to not want to take the next step forward. And I truly believe this. Like if you become aware that you are dealing with the mental barrier, but then you become more intentional on the why behind the what, which is the exercising. Like,
Yeah.
why is it so important for you to exercise? Then you get into conversations like my longevity, playing with my kids. Then you get to a bigger purpose in those mental down days.
Mhm.
You are going to be able to think about bigger picture, and those are the things that keep you going.
Yeah.
Because again, as somebody who's worked out my entire life. I would love to say that every day is great and I feel ready to work out, but that is not the case. To be
Mhm.
honest, probably every day when I wake up, it's like I'm working myself into going outside or going to the gym. It's not as easy as one may think outside looking in on somebody who has it as a steady routine.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, if it's tough for you, you know it's tough for the brother that's doing a 9 to 5, sitting at his desk all day. So
Man,
it's
yeah,
it's the struggle is real, especially when it comes
yes,
to working out.
yes,
Another barrier too that I hear people talk about a lot is this comparison trap.
yep,
Going from once you get in a groove and a rhythm, it becomes a lot easier. Not easy, but it's easier. But man, going from 0 to 1, especially when you look on social media, you go to the gym, and it seems like everybody is just waking up excited to go to the gym. It's sometimes discouraging,
Mhm.
even visually. You
Yeah,
go and say you're not at your goal weight or kind of your ideal space, and then you go to the gym and you kind of feel intimidated.
yeah,
Man, it's easy to say don't compare, but
yeah,
there's so many images around us to compare ourselves against, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and what advice do you have in that space? Like, how do you not compare yourself to say the person that's on the treadmill next to you, or the person that seems to be able to go to the gym effortlessly?
Yeah, it's great. Especially in today's world, right? So social media is the comparison trap, right?
Hmm.
Get on there, we scroll, we see these super fit people exercising and pushing heavy weights and looking good, and so that can be something that we process through our eye gates,
Hmm.
and it starts to get into our seep into our mind, and it affects what we got going on, right?
Hmm.
So I think
Yep.
the most important part to that is to understand that you were created as a unique, gifted, talented individual. I
Yeah.
truly believe that by the creator. And
Hmm.
so it's a race, and the race is not to be run with you and your buddy,
Yeah.
but this is about you. And I think settling into some goals and surrounding yourself with a great community that can uplift you and encourage you on your journey is extremely important to ensure that when you do start to fall into the comparison trap, you can remember that it's you versus you, and you can go back to the goals that you set that you want to accomplish and that you will accomplish. So I do think that it's important to make sure that we are focused on what we have to do that's right in front of us.
Okay.
One rep, one set, one day at a time. And I think having that approach will really help you stay locked in and focused on your individual journey.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that community. How important is it that we have that community around us? And even on a very practical level, do you encourage people to work out in groups starting out, or do you just mean your tribe in life?
Yeah, I think you have to find what's authentic to you, right? Obviously, there's personality differences where some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted, where being in a community and working out is like the best thing ever. But for another person, that may cause more anxiety. You rather have some solace in your workout time. I
Yeah.
think I think inviting the community, and I'm one of those people that really I love my own time.
Okay.
But I've learned here recently, actually, the importance of sacrificing kind of like my own time and inviting others in,
Yeah.
that it actually produces, I would say, like more of a endorphin flow for me,
Okay.
right? Because there's this energy that's connected where two or three or four or five or more people are working together towards a common goal,
Hmm.
right? So when you're in isolation, sometimes it can feel like that, right? Like you're alone in that
Yeah.
workout. And some people can grind through that, but what I've seen to be successful is group workouts. So I would encourage people to try a group fitness class. Find things that you enjoy, you like, that you're passionate about. Maybe it's a dance Zumba class,
Hmm.
things like that.
Yeah.
The YMCA has a bunch of classes to do, and try to find your tribe. Try to find people that have similar goals that you have.
Hmm.
Try to invite some people that can keep you accountable. Maybe somebody that you can inspire to be as far as their focus level when it comes to training and working out. Yeah, I think just branching out and expanding your community will definitely give
Yeah.
you the edge in your own journey.
Yeah, and look, I know somebody is probably listening saying, "Well, Willie, that's easy for you to say. This is what you do for a living, right?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
Hmm.
about for, say, someone who may not be in this space, as most of us aren't,
Right.
finding the time? That's another barrier. You have
Yeah.
the mental barrier, you have this comparison trap, but another
Yeah.
barrier is just, man, I'm just too busy. Do you feel that's a real thing, or do you feel like that's just an excuse that people use?
No, it's a real thing. You
Okay.
know, I have a ton of people in my life that find it very difficult to work out because of the kids or
Hmm.
because of the work schedule, right? And so you have to prioritize.
Hmm.
It goes back to that why, and I truly believe even those that are struggling to find the time, we all have 24 hours,
Yeah.
and you know, as a coach, it's in me to want the best for other people and to know that you can carve out 10 minutes to go walk outside and
Yeah.
to get some sunlight and
Mhm.
to just get your heart rate up maybe just a little bit, right? When you're doing housework, you're watching the kids, do that with some form of intensity,
Okay.
right? Do some
Like,
house,
over the counter,
yeah, right. Do that with some form of
where that broom at? Yeah.
just I think the intentionality behind wellness, right? It's going to allow you to see the opportunities where you can find time for physical activity.
Okay.
And so for people who are extremely busy, I would say start there. Start with just a walk. You
Mhm.
know, 5 minutes out from the house, minutes back. I
Mhm.
can almost promise you that if you just start, that 5 minute walk that you had in your mind, that intention is going to turn into maybe a little longer, right? Maybe you get on a phone call and you start multitasking. And then
Mhm.
before you know it, you start to create this positive momentum.
Mhm.
And then, you know, it becomes a routine
Yeah.
almost. And so I think that's a part of the struggle for us all, even myself. Like when I'm struggling or I've racked up a few days where I haven't worked out, I'm like, okay, let me plan out where I can get that next workout in. And then let me plan out exactly what that's going to look like. Let
Mhm.
me build from slow to a higher intensity. Every workout doesn't have to be extremely intense. It just starts with simple movement.
Yeah, taking that first step. And that's good because I think sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves to go out and be a triathlete when in reality, man, you just start with going outside, just being more active in general.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, that momentum is critical. You work with athletes a lot, and I know the motivation is, I mean, obviously you're motivating them to because you compete and you're gonna get embarrassed, when it's game time if you're not ready.
Right.
But what have you learned from a motivation perspective that someone could apply if they were trying to encourage their spouse to work out? So say one person is like on it, they're physically fit, or at least they're, moving in that direction.
Mhm.
The other partner, not so much. How do you motivate the other, without creating an unsafe environment, without passing judgment, without making them feel like they're not enough? What strategies do you use or would you recommend in those situations?
That's so good. I think the first strategy is you have to listen.
Okay.
You have to seek to understand that person and maybe the trauma that comes with exercising,
Mm.
maybe the understanding of the constraints that they actually do have and they don't have the time in their day to exercise. So I think starting there
Mm.
allows you to have more compassion, right?
Mm.
It allows you to be vulnerable in your process even though you've made exercise a part of your routine,
Mhm.
understanding that people are different. And
Yeah.
so, right, I'm a coach. And so this is part of my passion. But what my two sisters, my mom,
Yeah.
they their vocations are completely different.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned through experience, and I haven't been perfect at this, is to listen first and then to just be an example, right? Be an encouraging example where people see the fruits of what exercise is doing in your life. And I truly believe this, the decision has to come from the individual.
Mm.
Nobody can motivate you into starting something for yourself that will be beneficial,
Yeah.
right? Research is I mean, hands down proven that when you exercise, you increase your brain function. When you
Mhm.
exercise, you decrease mortality rate.
Yeah.
You improve your sleep, right?
Mhm.
So in the Black community, we think about type 2 diabetes and heart disease. You decrease the likelihood of those chronic diseases, right? So you take the inflammation out of your body when you exercise. There's so many benefits that
Yeah.
are there that we know. And I truly believe that people see the fruits of a positive attitude. Someone who's exercising, they're like, man, I want
It's just in a good mood.
just a
Yeah.
good mood, right? And then they're like, man, I just got my 20-minute walk in, and then they're showing that they're in a good mood. And then it's just like, hey, um, do you want to go on a walk with me one day? Just extend an invitation. No,
Yeah.
no pressure. But I walk at this time. And I think just inviting people in to your space with no pressure allows them to make that decision on their own. And hopefully they get there. And when they make that decision on their own, it's one of those things where there's going to be more internal accountability for them to stick with it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. What about for, another thing too, that comes to mind as you were talking is you can say you're in tip top shape. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You're killing it. You're working out, you got the routine down, all the bells and whistles, but there's still the subconscious aspect of questioning how you look,
Yeah.
appearance. And it's like everyone else could be like, oh man, Willie, you in shape, man.
Yeah.
You're doing it. But like you still harbor, hypothetically, someone still may harbor these insecurities
Yeah.
about your appearance. How do you get your confidence and your self-esteem up to a place to where, you're working out, but you also still feel good in the process?
That's such a great question, because that insecurity, I feel like, lies within us about our bodies. It's internal for everybody. Even the people that, if you talk to them, that look great and exercise 6 times a week and 2 times a day, and they were able to be vulnerable with you, they'll tell you, like, I do this because I remember the chubby kid that was in the 10th grade, and I don't want to go back there, right?
Everybody got a chubby kid and they pass. They like, nah.
They're like, nah, right? So they've connected a deeper why for them, on why they actually train, with such purpose. And so I believe that we all inherently have that insecurity. Okay. But just knowing that, going back to what I said earlier, you were created. You literally were created with this vessel, with this body, and it was woven for you to maximize it, right, to the best of your ability. Okay. And so when you settle into knowing that, all right, like, look, I got out of shape. I don't look the best. I don't feel the best. But you know what? I'm going to start today.
Yeah.
I think just that mindset alone allows you to settle in, to being a little bit more comfortable in your skin, right? And we all deal with insecurity, but then it allows you, to your point earlier, to take that first step. And that first step, that first rep, that first gym experience allows you to hopefully create some momentum where you have success, right? And I think that's part of the problem why a lot of people either stop training or they don't stick to the routine, is because they don't feel successful when they're doing it, right? I don't see the results right away.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm doing this form of exercise and I'm not competent at it. I'm not good at it. So then it decreases my confidence in it. So then I just stop. You know what? I'm good. I'm going back to the couch.
The couch. Yeah. I tried it. I did the workout thing. I still, especially oh Lord, please don't get on the scale and you
right.
Wait. Oh, that's the worst, right?
The worst is the scale, right? Stay away from the scale, especially when you're starting out. It's about how you feel. Gauge your mood, gauge those things versus the scale and the weight, because that can hinder a little bit of your growth. I mean, I see that at the elite level, like people are like, we are so oriented to like a number. And so even our guys they'll get on there like, oh no, like I'm gaining a couple pounds. Like,
like, come on, Willie, you supposed to help me, lose.
Yeah. Exactly. So
they ain't tell you what to eat, but
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's always the strength coach's fault. Always.
Of course. You gotta have somebody to blame.
No doubt.
Man, I think that I do want to go back to that, man, because I really do think that's important, where you're saying, hey, initially, again, we are so numbers and metrics driven.
Yeah.
Allowing the mood to be the barometer of success, and maybe the consistency, and just, man, speak a little bit more on that, because again, even in my traditional outdated thinking, I'm like, hey, first thing you gotta do, get on the scale, see where you are, establish a baseline. Why in certain situations can that be counterproductive?
Yeah, because I think what happens is you put an expectation where there should be no expectation,
Mm.
right? And so when you start to put a number somewhere and it becomes objective,
Right.
right? And so it takes away the subjectiveness, right? And the subjectiveness is the fun, it's the
Yeah.
journey, right? Like we know that the exercise, the routine, like making physical exercise a part of your routine, it's about the lifelong journey. There's no destination for it. It's going to change day to day. Hopefully, you find a routine, some consistency. You're going to feel great some days. You're going to feel bad some days. But if you have these numbers that you fixate on, I do think that it's important to have metrics. But
Mhm.
if you have them where you fixate on, then it can cause you to uh, over have ambition towards this goal that may not be attainable.
Yeah.
And so if you process that of what I'm saying, basically like if you
Yeah,
have
that makes perfect
a
sense.
goal of 215, but you're 250 and it's been a year
Mm.
and you're not even close to 215,
Mhm.
like man, like
Yeah.
you're gonna be upset. You probably feel like, man, what I'm doing isn't working.
Mhm.
And so it deflates you. And I think it's all about trying to find things that you have success in early on. And
Okay.
then once you find success, you can start challenging yourself and setting goals that are ambitious and getting outside of your comfort zone and all. You can get into the training side
Yeah.
of the physical activity. But first, start off with how you feel,
Mm.
take inventory. Okay. Just start off with like, all right, I want to sweat today, or I want to get my heart rate just a little bit up to where I understand that I'm working something in there
Yeah.
that is gonna help me over time in my health.
Mm. No, that makes total sense. And yeah, I just love the way how you explain it because you're right. I mean, the first thing we do is go to a number. And the truth is, I mean, unless you have some coaching, sometimes we just make this number up.
Yep.
Like I always say, man, I'm trying to get 190. Well, why, Nick? Why not 192? Why not
Right.
190? There's
Right.
no rhyme or reason
Yeah. Right.
aside from this is just this magical number that the last time I think I was where I needed to be, and I'm
Yeah.
sure at least I was there. I said I need to be at 180, whatever that is.
A
And so
hun-
it just becomes this moving target.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
now this isn't related to relationships or anything like that, but this is the diet. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm always trying to steal workout advice from people. Like, man, what tips you got? And they always start with the same, "Hey, man, it's 80% in your diet." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, give me a supplement, give me a cheat code
Right.
to, to this whole thing." But
Right.
the diet is a huge part, and obviously, when you think about it from a mood, when you think about it, it carries the same, if not more, benefits than
Yes.
your physical activity. So from that perspective, what advice do you have for people who say they work out, they got a nice little rhythm going, but man, when they sit down, it's just a struggle. Like I love sweets, I love to, eat fast food, whatever their vice is. How do you break through some of the mental barriers or when it comes to the stuff that we eat?
Yeah, that's so good. So good. And so again, in my faith and what we believe in, we believe in fasting, right?
Mhm.
Fasting has come from the creator, and it's periodically, but I do believe in the benefits of fasting. And so when we think about maybe starting there, if you're having gut issues, you're having
Mhm.
just digestion, what's that?
I said, oh, yeah, uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? But I know. So like, hear me out though. Hear me out. So that's a strategy I wanted to start off with, so you think
Yeah.
about it, because what that does, it makes you realize that you don't need food. You
Mm-hmm.
need it, but like you don't need as much as you probably eat,
Yeah.
or it probably as much as you think you need,
Mhm.
right? And it's a very difficult process, but I like to start off with, like, when we talk about nutrition, of like, can you go a couple hours without eating,
Mm.
right? Can you
Yeah.
actually do
Good.
that? Yeah. And if you can't, Let's start there. Maybe, that breakfast that you think you need, that pancake, the waffle for energy for work that you think you need, maybe you don't need it. Have you ever tried not eating breakfast or maybe pushing it back just a little bit
Mhm.
to see how you feel? Like, is the cognitive, are you thinking sharper, or do you need that energy? Maybe it is an energy supply that you need. And I think everybody's body is different, but I like to start there because I think so many people think that I need to eat at least 3 meals a day, or if I'm trying to gain muscle, I need this amount of protein.
Mhm.
And I think nutrition is very tribal. So it comes down to your experience with it and what you find is beneficial for you.
Okay.
And so I say start off with, a little bit of pushing your meal times back.
Okay.
Start there. So maybe it's you eat breakfast at 8. Traditionally, you go to work, at 9. Maybe you take breakfast to work and you have your first meal at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And for lunch, what you do, maybe you don't have a lunch, maybe you have a bigger dinner.
Mm.
And so, you create these little scenarios with your nutrition to see what works. Because again, with nutrition, it is fuel, 1000%. So I'm not telling anybody to
Yeah.
not fuel their bodies.
Yeah. Don't try to go to week and you hadn't
Yeah,
fed.
Coach Willie told me, man, fast.
Yeah.
That's the first thing he said was fast. No,
First thing, man. Next week I'm not eating.
no, right. Or you just like laid out somewhere. Yeah, no, that is not what I'm telling you to do.
Mhm.
But what I am telling you is just to grasp the concept of it, because it allows you to realize you don't need as much food as you think you do. And what happens, you do need sugar, right? Because sugar that's our energy source. But guess what? When you don't have sugar in your body goes to metabolizing fat.
Mhm.
Right. So maybe it's simply in cutting the carbs break down into sugar. So if I eliminate a little bit of carbs, maybe I'm not eating carbs for lunch. It's just a salad. Maybe it's an oatmeal, a couple eggs in the morning, and then it's a salad for lunch. Versus it's oatmeal, a pancake, eggs, and then for lunch I'm having a 12-inch sub from Subway.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I know money is a factor in all in this conversation as well. But I just believe that if we minimize the amounts of foods that we eat, I think our general population of people will be healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, there's no denying the benefits, short term, long term, about being healthy. And so, and it's not static. It's not like I was healthy last week, so now I'm good. It's something that we have to always invest in and reinvest in, and we're all on this journey together. So, yeah, that's a good point. Because again, so many people are like, man, if I could just get this one thing right, and typically that one thing is the diet.
Hmm.
Starting with a fast. Any other recommendations for people who may be struggling in the diet area, especially when you have, like, we all got that one thing. For me, it's dessert. Some people it may
Yeah,
be sugary drinks. Some people
yeah,
maybe carbs. What are
yeah.
some other ways in addition to fasting?
So for me personally, my issues are salty foods and sugar. Like, I love potato chips, love
Mhm.
them. Like, if I go to the grocery store and I get a bag of potato chips, they will not last a few days. They will last one. You know,
Oh, you got the bag in the passenger seat.
no doubt. And so we owned a corner store when I was a young kid. And I remember all the penny candies. Like, I would crush all the penny candies. And
Yeah.
so for me, understanding that sugar and salty foods are literally my weakness,
Mm.
I have to be careful on what I bring into the home, into the environment, knowing that my discipline or my ability to say no, willpower to say no to the whole bag is very limited. So guess what? I'm not going to get any bags. And so
Mhm.
I think starting there at the grocery store, just getting the things that are going to fuel you versus getting things that you need to just have in the cabinets that are just there, the Twinkies or just whatever, right? Or the kids, for some people, it's kids. They have kids with,
Me, man, I'm killing the kids' fruit
you,
snacks. It's
you know
like,
what
man,
I'm
what
saying?
fruit snacks is daddy?
Yeah. Yeah. So find another alternative for fruit
Mm.
snacks for daddy. Maybe it's watermelon. All right, you know
Mm.
what? I'm gonna go with the apple today.
Mm.
I'm just gonna go in, and I truly understand, like, food is attached to emotions and stress and all these things. So it's not easy, but I do think you have to have a game plan. And so that game plan is not the fruit snack, it's the apple today.
Mhm.
It's not the bowl of cereal, but I'm going to go with just some protein. I'm just going to make some eggs today. Right.
Mhm.
And I think, those small wins at mealtime
Yeah.
allows us to regulate our nutrition a little bit better so that we can be a little bit better in that area. And it takes time, and we
Yeah.
all have our shortcomings with food.
It's a process for sure. Man, any final advice, again, whether someone is a seasoned veteran in the gym, someone's just starting to work out, whether they got the diet and they're trying to take it to the next level, just any general advice you have for people who are trying to improve, which is all of us. Just FYI, all of us should be trying to improve and grow throughout our lives. But anything that you found personally that has been beneficial to you and some of the work that you do with athletes to help people continuously stay on that road to improvement.
Yeah, find moments in your life where you've been resilient.
Mm.
Find moments in your life where you've been resilient. And so when times get hard or when things get difficult on your workout journey or your physical fitness journey, go back to your story and think about those times where you overcame those moments and
Mhm.
keep going,
Yeah.
keep pushing. And so you have a mountain to climb. I can't do Nic Hardy's push-ups, nor
Mhm.
can he do mine. And
You
so
probably can do mine. I don't know if I can do yours though.
yeah, I got that from somebody. It makes sense, right? Like on this climb in life, right? You're training for life. That's what you're training for. So I would say continue to run your race. Continue to surround yourself with a great community of encouragers and people that uplift you and speak life into you during this process. And then find ways to challenge yourself a little bit throughout the journey, because I truly believe that when we get uncomfortable in our workouts, it makes us better for the spaces that we have to occupy with our vocations and our family and everything else that we have to do. So more energy working out is going to lead to more energy in your life.
Absolutely, man. Willie, I appreciate you. I really do. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? What's the best way for people to just get in contact with Willie Cruz?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Just type in Willie Cruz. I should probably pop up on there. And then on Instagram, Willie Cruz 20 is my Instagram handle.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Untherapeutic. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, too. So